Hi, and welcome to the Restorative Wellness Clinicians Corner, video series exclusively for functional health professionals, where we interview the top experts in the latest research, products, tools, and best practices for getting your clients exceptional results. Welcome, everybody. I am so excited to be here with you tonight for today's episode of the RWS Clinicians Corner, and we have a super special guest with us tonight. So I feel like in many ways she needs no introduction, but I really want you to hear the list of accomplishments this incredible powerhouse of a woman has achieved. So JJ Virgin is with us tonight. And she is a triple board certified nutrition expert and fitness Hall of Famer. She has launched 3 multi-million-dollar businesses, including a 7-figure personal brand. She is a 3 times Inc. 5000 founder, a top 10 finalist for the John C. Maxwell Award. And she's an authority on transformational leadership and has coached some of the biggest names in the health business, many of whom you all know, and transformed the lives of millions of people around the world. She also founded the Mindshare Collaborative, which you all have heard me talk about at length. It is the most influential professional community in health, having propelled more New York Times bestsellers, PBS specials, and 7-figure brands than any other community. JJ is a prominent TV and media personality as well. She co-hosted Freaky Eaters and was the nutritionist for the weight loss challenges on Dr. Phil. She has made numerous appearances on PBS, Dr. Oz, Rachel Ray, Access Hollywood, and The Today Show. She also speaks regularly, commanding audiences of 10,000 and more. She shared the stage with other highly sought-after experts, including Tony Robbins, Seth Godin, Lisa Nichols, Gary Vaynerchuk, Dr. Mark Hyman, Mary Morrissey, and many more. She is also the author of 4 New York Times bestsellers, The Virgin Diet, The Virgin Diet Cookbook, JJ Virgin's Sugar Impact Diet, and JJ Virgin's Sugar Impact Diet Cookbook. And her most recent book, Warrior Mom, 7 Secrets to Bold, Brave Resilience, shares the inspirational lessons that she learned as she fought for her son's life. Now, evidence of JJ's far-reaching impact can be seen in the millions of views on her YouTube channel, Instagram, and Facebook, and through her popular podcast, Well Beyond 40 with JJ Virgin, which has more than 16 million downloads and counting. Now, I want to share my personal experience with JJ because JJ has been absolutely pivotal to me personally, and is a big reason why I'm here with all of you. I first met JJ back in 2017 when I very first attended the Mindshare Leadership Summit. And I have to tell you, I was completely blown away from her. And yes, I mean, the accolades, the list of accomplishments. But really, for me, she was such a model, fellow nutritionist, fellow mom, main provider for her family, also deeply invested. And this is one of the things that I love the most about JJ is she's so invested in lifting up other health professionals. You'll hear her talk about a rising tide lifts all boats. And whereas some people can get very small-minded and competitive and kind of closed off, JJ's approach is the exact opposite of that. It's how can we support each other? How can we lift each other up? And I have always loved that. So she was a role model for me from the moment that I met her. It is not an exaggeration to say that she and the Mindshare Collaborative have had the single most important impact on me professionally and personally. I think of different people I've brought here for the Clinicians Corner, mentors in my life like Bo Eason or Lisa Nichols or Michael Burnoff. All of these are people that she has personally introduced me to. She has also given me some great tough love coaching and has just really challenged me to step into my own greatness. So we are in for an absolute treat tonight. JJ, a huge welcome.
I call it tough love with love, honey.
Yeah. I've had a lot of it. It's been awesome. So I would love you to take us back to the beginning, right? Like here, I've just listed off all these incredible successes, these achievements, the multiple 7-figure businesses. No one starts out that way, right? So let's go back to the beginning. Where did you start from? Where did this all begin?
So I got obsessed. Sorry, I have like a barky dog party going on downstairs. It just, of course, when you did that, it was like, boom. I got obsessed when I was in my early teens that I wanted to be a Broadway actress. You don't know any of this. So I wanted to be a Broadway actress. And I started taking voice lessons and dance classes. And I started going to the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco. And I became a really great tap dancer, horrible singer. Like, she was like, at least I got you to carry a tune. But I still was very convinced that's what I wanted to do. So because of that, I realized that my body really was like my instrument, right? So I started studying nutrition. And back then, like we had calisthenics, and I actually started teaching along with dance. I was teaching calisthenics, which is so funny. But I started studying everything I could. I went to the library and started reading nutrition books. And so I went off to UCLA on a theater scholarship and quickly discovered that their theater department stunk, and that everyone that was in the theater department was joking about how they were going to graduate and become a waiter or a waitress. And I thought, well, this is really stupid. Why would I go to college to become a waitress, right? I could just do that now. So I dropped out of that major and I didn't know what I was going to do. And it is really funny how, like, when you look back, things seem to be so disjointed and have no rhyme or reason, but then it all came together perfectly because I ended up becoming an English major because my English professor teased me and told me I was a terrible writer. So I was like, I'll show you. I'm sure that dude doesn't have New York Times bestsellers. I keep wanting to like go back and say, take that. But, because he literally like kind of put me down in front of the whole class. But I found nutrition and exercise physiology towards the end of my time at UCLA, and they had a credit limit. And so I couldn't keep going. So I had to leave. So literally the day after graduating from UCLA, I took a little exercise extension program at UCLA, and then I went into Cal State Northridge in their biomechanics program because that's where my professor was like, this is the best program. And so that started all of it. But what's so wild to think about is you just never know where all these things are going to lead, because obviously the acting, performing has helped me a ton with all the things that I do. The English major, even though I do not like writing to this day, has helped me a ton with books. And then, of course, I just kept following my passion of I loved nutrition and fitness. And I started out doing all of my graduate and doctoral work in exercise phys. And I literally got up to my PhD in exercise physiology. And there was a class on nutrition. And I'd run out of classes at USC. I was literally taking classes in the dental school. And I took a class on nutrition. It was like, the birds started singing and the sky cleared up. And so I ditched my PhD. I think I literally had one class in a dissertation left and started studying nutrition. And I couldn't find a school that was teaching nutrition in a way. I mean, there were no functional nutrition schools back then. So I was like, I'm not going to learn everything to teach people the opposite. This is ridiculous. So I was just cherry picking classes all over the place to learn this stuff. I mean, people are so lucky here because this did not exist. I had to be like, I'll learn that over there and that over there, right? So that's how it all kind of happened. And, looking back, it looks like this very obvious path, but boy, it wasn't obvious back then.
I love it. I had no idea. It actually explains a lot about costume parties and
yes, and why I was a tap dancer at one of them.
Wow, I love it. I love it. So just so we're not all under the illusion that, okay, then you made this decision to move into nutrition and health. It wasn't, there's this beautiful, steady, linear progression up to phenomenal success. And here we are, right? I would love you to share, because one of the things I think a lot of folks have is, we all start somewhere, right? And we have successes, and then you can have major setbacks, and it can sometimes just feel like you're pulling your hair out and nothing is working. So can you share with us some of your more spectacular failures along?
Oh my gosh, there's been so many. And, I don't trust someone who hasn't failed. First of all, I don't believe them. It's one of the biggest things I seek out in a mentor. I'm like, okay, how many spectacular failures have you had? Because when everything goes perfectly great for me, I learn nothing. I did not grow, nothing changed, right? But boy, those failures are where, and when things get really rough, I mean, I look back at a time, Margaret, where, and it was when I invested in my first mastermind, I was dead broke. I was trying to figure out how to pay for my kids' food. I'm the sole provider. I'm a single mom. And, you look back at those times and you go, the single biggest thing you can do in any of those times is invest in yourself, right? But when you're in those times, I think it's probably one of the most valuable things that can happen, because the more constrained you are, the more creative you have to get, right? And so when I look at my career and you look at it and you go, okay, you start kind of making some progress and then boom, you drop down. And that dropping down actually is where you get creative. It's like when you're in that place is actually where things start to really happen again. It's hard to think about it at the time. At the time, you're like, this really stinks. But, if I had to look at all of it again, I would say it was a mistake to just not finish that stupid PhD. It is the challenge with me, because I am a true entrepreneur. It's amazing that I got through any type of school whatsoever, because I would get bored and then I'd want to go learn something else. And then I'd get bored. And then, it's like, so, but I wish I'd finished the PhD. I think that was a mistake to not just finish that darn thing. But the other biggest mistake that I've done repeatedly until I finally figured it out. I mean, I'm talking as late as like last year. And this mistake that's done the biggest damage to my businesses is hiring. And I think I told you, it's like hiring my mother. I literally have drawn the wrong people to me over and over and over and over and over again. And I had a mentor early on who said, running a business, building a business is the biggest personal development journey you'll ever be on. It'll bring up all your stuff. And I kept going, gosh, I would hire someone and promote them past what they're capable of. They do a ton of damage. And then I'd have to come in, so your business was here going up, then you bring in the wrong person, then it would go zoom, and you'd have to come in and clean it up again, and then, and they say it's 10 or 20 times the salary of a bad hire.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So it is. So I'd say that's the mistake that I did repeatedly, because I couldn't figure out the real issue. And once I figured out the real issue, then I was like, I can fix this.
So we have folks here who are at all different stages in business, right? We have some people who are just absolutely crushing it. They're already multiple six-figure practice. They're looking to scale and grow. We have people who are just starting out, maybe they're even just figuring out pricing. We teach how to put your work in packages as opposed to doing the a la carte kind of model. So they're just figuring that out. They're getting launched. What I would love is for you to walk us through kind of playing a mind game of, let's pretend you had to start over completely today. So none of the context, none of the successes, none of the financial success, none of that. But the one piece that I'll let you keep is the experience. You have the knowledge in your head, but maybe you're plucked up from planet Earth and put on a new planet and nobody has a sweet clue who you are and you need to start from scratch. I would love if you could walk us through how you would begin and what are some of the key steps that you would take. I know we're going to have to do this at a high level, but I think this is invaluable given what you have learned, and be able to kind of share some of these invaluable learnings that you've had along the way.
What's cool about this, for anybody who's here and who is just starting out, we actually all have those experiences. And you hear it so often, Margaret, people are like, oh, but I'm just starting. I go, but you have life experiences. And those are the most valuable thing you have. To me, I have two hugely valuable things. I have my education experiences. That's my most valuable. But my second most valuable are my connections, my network, my community, my family, right? And that's my family of choice. And so I tell you, I play this game, and I've actually, this is perfect for, I know we're going to talk about the health business ascension model, and that was a perfect lead in for that, because every year I play a game at the end of the year, and it is the I'm allowed to blow up everything game. And literally this happened because I'd hired someone in my business, and I thought, I don't even want to I don't want to go to work anymore. And I never think of going to work. Like I never think of working. Like it's just not a thing. I just do what I love. But I didn't even want to show up around him because this was years ago. I was like going, I don't even want to be around this person. How do I just leave the business? Like it's my business, Right. So I thought, what if you just gave yourself permission to blow up anything that you didn't love, that you really could think about, what would I love? I play this game all the time. So I started every year, like as I'm going towards the end of the year and planning for the next year, I go, all right, what do I want to bring with me? What's been research and development? And it just gets to go to the wayside. And I think that's important for all of us to look at, because just because you've always been doing something doesn't mean you always have to be doing something. You can let it go at any time. We all think that everyone knows us for this thing, and people don't even pay attention. It's incredible. So I just want to frame it like that. Then I'll also say, as I started to get some level of success, my friends in the health business started to ask me how I could help them. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea how I got here, so I can't help you. But it was Dr. Anna Kabecka. She was like, come on, sure you can. You can help. So she was my first coaching client. And so for years, I've coached a lot of different people that you would know who are just amazing humans, like Dr. Alan Christensen and Dr. Sarah Gottfried and Dr. Tom O'Brien. And I was like, what is the thing? Because success leaves clues. There must be a predictable path. And if there's a predictable path, that means that if you got into the situation like you just described, where now you don't have anything left but just your knowledge, you could easily start over again. And I will tell you that if I had this information I'm about to share back when I was starting, and I had invested in myself back when I was starting, that 40-year, because people were like, oh my God, you got this. I go, it took me 30 flipping years to get there. It shouldn't have. I can show someone predictably how to get to a 7-figure plus scaling business in 3 years or less with this process. So I love to throw those slides up and we'll go through that. But I will tell you with one caveat, I never have seen someone be successful who's not willing to invest in themselves. And it's funny, a lot of people will want other people to invest in them before they'll invest in themselves. And again, along the success leaves clues lines, I've been in so many different groups and around so many different people, and you see people who are successful and they take a risk on themselves. They invest in themselves. It's the most common thing that I see with people is that one piece, is that willingness to say, yes. And especially, Margaret, when you think about where we're going into with all this, I just heard it's going to be a triple pandemic. I'm like, really? And the recession and all this stuff. The time my whole business took off was when I invested in myself, and it was 2008. It was the time of this horrific recession when everything was going sideways and I didn't have any money, and I invested in myself, and that changed everything. But what I'll walk you through is exactly what I would do if I was starting over, and I'll just kind of even give you stories of what I would do in this situation. So here's what's fun. Over the last 5 years, I've been trying to crack the code of what did I do and how do I take people through a predictable process so that I can take anyone who's willing to invest in themselves. I'm going to keep saying that, and is coachable, right? Because if you know everything, then you probably don't know anything. And you won't get anywhere. So always have a beginner's mind. That's super important. But how do you predictably go through this path? And the other part of it is, how do I save you from my $1 million MBA? All the mistakes I made along the way, because while the path's predictable, the steps, if you skip a step, if you don't fully do the things in each step, you're going to slide back, which is what happened to me. And I've seen it happen to a lot of other people. So first thing I would do, and if you want to jump to the slide creation, the first thing that I would do, before that, this model that we did, which I will tell you is always a work in progress. We are at about 90%. There's a couple more shifts we're going to make, because we're going to make them for the Mindshare Leadership Summit that add in more customer journey languaging. But this will give you a really good framework to start from. And if I was just starting out again, let's go to the first page, which would be creation. So the first page of creation, and you'll see this tagline here, is how to create a transformational offer with clarity and confidence that generates additional income. Now, here's what's important. And you all are so lucky. You know, when I started, I was one of the first personal trainers, me, Body by Jake, Mark Sisson. And there was no framework. In fact, there wasn't even a name for us. And so I didn't know. Someone asked me what I charged, and I was like, $35, you know, kind of asking them. And this was back in the early 80s. So that seemed like a gazillion dollars back then. But I was charging and having people pay as they go, which when you're a personal trainer and you have people pay as you go and they go out and like have a big party night and you're supposed to come the next morning, you know what they do? They cancel. So I learned pretty quickly that I had to package that. And then I also learned pretty quickly that if I really wanted to create some kind of leveraged income, that what I had to do was package it in a transformation with results in advance. I wasn't selling exercise sessions. I was selling confidence in your body and better health. And so I packaged that up as a program, just like you're teaching people to do, because people will pay for a transformation. People will price shop for a transactional commodity. So we always want to be doing the transformation. So if I was starting all over again, since I am obsessed with body composition and people stop trying to lose weight and start focusing on putting on muscle and improving their metabolism to get healthy, to lose weight, I would absolutely create a program around that. And I say that because I'm doing it right now. So I'm actually in creation mode right now with a new book and a new program. And I always go back to this with whatever I'm doing. So that's the first thing. And I'm also in creation mode, testing it with 5 to 10 people who are my warm leads. So I think back to when I moved to Palm Springs, California, I needed clients quickly. I went over to the local, like, hoity-toity salon. I found someone in there. I got my hair done and I offered a trade that I would work her out and help her get fitter and healthier if she would do my hair, because I know that people yak in hair salons. I also went to the top boutique in town and did the same thing. And so now I'm getting clothes and I'm getting my hair done and I'm getting clients. Because, right? I mean, this was always my fastest way to build a business. I would just go to the salons and boutiques and trade. So simple, and do little talks around town. But when you're in creation mode, I'm really only looking for 5 to 10 clients to start, you know, like, and it was funny, back when I started as a trainer charging $35 an hour, I quickly figured out the packaging thing. But by the time I stopped doing this, I created a package that was $6,995. It was a 3-month program. I had hired other health coaches to help me. And it took me about 90 minutes of my time. They got the same or maybe even better results, right? Because everything was put into it, but it wasn't as reliant on me, which is super important. So that's the first creation point. And I see a lot of people who want to create. First of all, there's a lot of people who just want to create and then they do nothing with it. I'm like, you can't create another thing until you've sold the first thing. And if you can't sell the first thing to a warm audience, to people who already know, like, and trust you, or the friends of them, then don't think you're all of a sudden going to run ads and do webinars and sell a whole bunch of them. Because you always have to have what I call the Starbucks test, where you're standing in line and you're yakking about it and someone overhears and goes, "What's that? I want that." Right? And so the first thing always is to put this offer, this transformational offer together, and then sell it to some people that you can talk one-on-one to, because you'll hear their objections, you'll hear their languaging, and that is mission critical for how you're going to frame this. So that's really my first part of creation.
Can you just speak to one piece in this addition, that imperfect action taker? I just want a little underline underneath that word imperfect, because that's a place that I see folks get hung up all the time, feeling like they have to have all the parts sorted out, the beautiful landing page, the this, the that, like all the stuff before they actually go out there. And I love that idea of imperfect action.
I never have any of that stuff. So I'm so glad you brought that up.
Good.
First of all, what perfect thing have you ever done? Like, I gave birth to my 2 boys. That's it, man. That is the only thing I can say. Other than that, zero. Yeah. And nothing, even the programs I have right now, not perfect, could be better, could have more tweaks. As soon as I fix them, they'll need to be fixed again. My website, the minute you finish your website, you need to redo it. So this idea that anything will ever be perfect, if you're a neurosurgeon, then you need to be perfect. Yes. Other than that, no way. And for me, like, do not put a landing, like none of the stuff, no landing pages, no nothing. You could have a simple Google Doc with what you offer to start with. I've written it out on a napkin. And by the way, people are not buying your service delivery. They are not buying your 5 coaching calls and your 2 tests. They're not buying that. They're buying the fact that their gut's not going to ache anymore, and they're not going to feel like they're going to blow up with gas every hour. That's what they're buying. They're buying, and my girlfriend Lisa Sasevich always said, you know, when you're explaining what you do to someone and how you can help them, it is 90% transformation, 10% service delivery. And I remember when she told me that, and I was making an offer, I had a call, I had like 10 people on the call, and I was walking them through it. I didn't have a page or anything. I just had a place they could go pay. You just need to be able to take the money. Yes. That's the most, and you can Venmo. Like, this is not hard anymore. And she listened to the call. She goes, you forgot the service delivery. Everyone closed. Everyone bought. I didn't even tell them what they were buying. You know, they didn't know, is it a webinar? Is it like, I don't know. So that's what's super important here is outline your framework of what you're going to offer. Know what the transformation for the offer, know what you want to charge for the offer, and then offer it, and then put it together, because why build a thing if no one wants it?
Hallelujah.
Like, why would you ever? I've done that. That's like, in terms of big business mistakes. And by the way, I did that, the Virgin Diet, like, started out with me working one-on-one with people. And then I put people into a small group, 1 to few, because it was better leverage. And then I started recording everything I was repeating. And then I started putting it into a bigger group. And then when I did the bigger group, I talked to an agent who got a publisher, and we did a book. And then once that book published, they wanted a book on sugar. And I was like, I don't have any ideas on sugar, but I had something I wanted to do. I had a framework idea. So I outlined the framework. I did a webinar. I sold people into it. I took them through a program that I literally it was about 70% there as we were creating it. I was just staying ahead and doing recording teleclasses as I went. I handed it over. Writer and I worked on it, became Sugar Impact Diet. I did not, I never do it the other way, because the one time I did it the other way with Warrior Mom, I spent all this time, all this money, nearly went bankrupt trying to create this whole thing no one wanted. Instead of just working it the way I know to work it is, first of all, know the problem that you're solving. What is the pain? What's the problem you're solving? Great. Give them that solution, because people search for solutions, then you need to be convinced that your brand is the brand to give it to them. So that's what you want to focus on, is you are solving a problem. That's it. Okay. Glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it's a super important one. Did you want to touch this at all, or we keep going?
Let's see.
This is the success metric.
So yeah, clearly identified, like, what's the problem? Who do you solve it for? How do you solve it? What are you charging? And whatever you're charging, charge more, because people people, it's amazing what I've seen over the years. And this was the hardest thing for me. I remember when I, first got asked what I charged, and I said $35 and threw up a little bit. And then the next time, and the person was like, great, when can you come over? And I thought, oh, too low. And then the next one was 45, same thing, 55, same thing, 75, same thing, 95. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And it was crazy. I'd raise my rates and get a waiting list. And the more I charged, the higher the perceived value was, and the better results people got, because the more they paid, the more they paid attention. Simple. So, and we all know that, like, we've all gone on Amazon and seen products, and there's one product that's too cheap. So you totally think, oh, that just must be cheap. Couldn't have any value. So that is a very important thing. I think the rest of this stuff is we're good.
Keep going.
We're good. So now let's say I've taken my new program, and 5 to 10 people were like totally cool. They went through it. We got great success. I started to hear, I really heard their pain, how they described it. I heard their results, because now I can use all of that in my marketing. And I might even name the program after that, because, the more you can name programs based on the transformation you provide, the better off you are. My online program for the Virgin Diet is Breakthrough Food Intolerance, because that's what it does. So you use all of that stuff, and now you can start to look at, can I get into a cold audience? Can I start working with maybe running some ads to a webinar? So that's the optimized part, is this. And this is really so that you start to create, now that you have a thing, and if you're at all entrepreneurial, your biggest thing right now is you'll want to create another thing. Nope, don't create the other thing. You want to create a 6 to 7 figure income stream with this thing first. You can add things called income amplifiers like testing and products, but don't go create a whole nother thing until you get this thing really humming. So that means that you've got consistent lead flow into it. You understand how the customer journey works, like how are they finding you, then how are they getting nurtured, then how are they saying yes, they're purchasing, what's happening after they purchase, and then how are you turning them into an advocate. That's all happening here. Super duper important. What happens here is that a lot of people just kind of get stuck with what do they need to do next, right? They might get into bright, shiny object syndrome, like think they need other stuff, instead of just doing the work to get that consistent lead flow of a colder audience that's going to buy this over and tell their friends. Let me see if there's anything else I need to talk into here. I think that's it. But again, one of the things I like to add into optimize. So
here are the success metrics as well here.
Oh yeah, success. One of the things that I like when I think of Virgin Diet, I was doing it one-on-one, did it one to few. Then as I went into optimize, now I'm doing group programs. I added in products, right? I look at income amplifiers. What things would they naturally need that I can add in to make more money? And, if you look at it, there's 3 ways to increase your income. You can sell more to the person, sell more often. So I'm blanking on it. Sell more often, sell more, and get more people. And so, one of the easiest things to do is if you've got a program where there's other things they need, make it easy for them to get the other things you need and get paid for doing it, whether it's an affiliate sale or your private label or whatever it is. They appreciate that they don't have to go do the work, right? Because none of us have extra time to go searching for things. So some of the things here that I look at are building a signature talk, not 10 talks. We should all have one talk that we can do over and over and over again. I have one for my professional business, one for my consumer business. Someone asked me to talk about something else. The answer is no, because I know how long it takes me to put a talk together. I've made that mistake over and over and over again. This is what I do. This is what I'm known for. Stick with that. This is where you make sure that you're doing regular email. If you're building a list and you're not emailing the list, don't build the list, because the list, it's like buying a houseplant and never watering it. It makes no sense. This is where you would have a simple marketing system. We have one in Mindshare called the Mindshare marketing system. And this is where you're actually like, what's interesting is your profit margin will start to go down a little bit as opposed to before. Your income's going up, but now you're also going to start pulling other people to start working in your business. And I had a great mentor early on who told me, you leverage yourself through team and tools and tech. And so when you start to look at this, I see people very, very scared to hire people. And it's so much easier now because we have all of these different independent contractors. But the way I always like to look at it is, I was in college. I had 5 jobs in college, and I hired a personal assistant because by the time I got to the point where I was doing personal training and now I was making $75 an hour and up, I went, why would I go run errands? Back then we had none of the Instacart, et cetera. I go, why would I spend 1 minute running errands when I can pay someone $15 an hour to do that? So I looked at every single thing I could offload to someone for $15 an hour when I was making $75 to $100 an hour, and I offloaded everything. And it's always been my philosophy. If you can figure out how much your time is worth, then you should never do the tasks below that time, because you're basically stealing from your business.
I want to point out here, a lot of the things that we see in here, notice they're in step 2. They're not in step 1. So you don't need to, like, you need to have that first step of creation locked in before you get here. This is another place where I see people get really hung up, as they start trying to do it all too early in step one. They're still in creation mode, but they're trying to do all of the things.
I'm so glad you brought that up. One of the big things I'm obsessed with, I heard this and I said, that is the greatest line, is you need to make sure you're doing the right thing at the right time in your business. Yes. And I think the reason people jump from creation to optimize too fast is because they don't want to do the painful part of creation, which is selling your thing to a human in front of you, right?
Yes, totally.
Because you might hear no. And, you know, if you hear no, you're either selling it to the person who doesn't need your service, or you haven't created the right conversation, the right transformational offer. And both of those are vitally important information, because you want to be just as clear as to who's not right for your program as who's right for the program. So you can write that compelling marketing as you go into optimize that will repel the people that are not right. Like in Mindshare, we are super clear about who's right and who's not right for Mindshare. Someone who's that competitive person, not right for us. We're super collaborative. You know, you're not collaborative, this isn't going to work for you. You will actually be repelled when you come to the event. But, you know, so I think the reason people don't do what they need to do in creation is because they avoid the scary part. And the scary part is where all the gold is. Like if you cannot sell something one-to-one, it does not get easier when you do this. And if you start focusing all your time on your signature talk and all that, don't do that till you've figured out that you actually have the thing that can sell, that you've actually landed something that people want to hear more about. Otherwise, you just wasted a whole lot of time and money.
Yeah. Thank you for underlining that.
Thank you. All right. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I am a classic visionary entrepreneur. This is the most painful thing to me of all. I think, you know, creation is super fun. But I don't ever allow myself to jump from creation until I know that I can sell it, and I will go sell one-to-one. I am literally working with people one-to-one and doing talks, right? And doing things small group right now, testing my new program. Because if people are not going, oh, then I knew it's a flop. Don't do it, right? So, you know, you go through creation, you get into systematize. There's clear things in that systematize you need to do. Or I'm sorry, you go into optimize. Once you're through that, now you can invest into the systematize, because this really is, now we're starting into that place where you can scale. I will tell you though, Margaret, and you know, another mistake that I made. So my first mentor, who in 2008, I invested in when I was totally dead broke, and my friends around me were like, you're crazy, you don't have the money. And it was funny, 5 years later, they were not the same places. Like we were all in the same place in our businesses at the time. And 5 years later, one was an exercise physiologist, one was a chiropractor. 5 years later, they are not the same place in their business that they were. They're lower, because we were going through a recession. So now they've contracted, because the message they gave to the universe was, I'm going to contract. So they did. And I was like, boom, you know, multi-7-figure business, because I was the one that took the risk, which I don't find a risk being investing in yourself. And all of you here, I'm sure, feel the same way, because you invested in this program. So therefore, I know that you are all smart humans because you invested in yourself and you get that you're the best investment. And I actually was just reading a thing by Warren Buffett, who was talking about the single most important investments you could do. And it was like seven of the key investments. You know, of course, one of them was invest in yourself. So when you get the program, you know now it's ready to go. So my mentor goes, when you have that, you see it working, then put your foot on the gas and drive it. And I'm like, okay. So, you know, Virgin Diet, now I've done the optimize and I've got the program, I've got the signature talk, I've got, you know, I'm now writing the book, like everything is set, and I put my foot on the gas and it went up. And then it started to go do. Why? Because I didn't do any systematize. And in fact, I still remember when we launched the Virgin Diet Shakes, and we launched them, and I was on Rachel Ray that week and the Today Show, and Rachel Ray talking about the Virgin Diet Shake. we sold $500,000 of shakes. The company that we were working with, I told them this was going to happen, and they didn't believe me. So what was supposed to be shipped out in 2-3 days, 3 weeks.
Oh.
The problem was my assistant was the person handling all our email and stuff, because we didn't really get any customer complaints, because we didn't have anything really beyond just, it was something she could totally handle until this hit, until we launched the product line. We had no customer service process, no Zendesk, no nothing. We had nothing. That was just a little of the nothing that we had. We had so many nothings. So you don't put your foot on the gas until you've built all the systemization in place. This is like, you have to do this. And this, for most of us, is painful. Now, you don't have to do this. I still, to this day, do not know how to send an email. I have never sent an email through my email service provider. I actually don't know who my email service provider is in one of my companies. I know in one of them, but I don't know in the other. But I have no idea. Like you said, you have to go send an email. I go, I don't know how to do that, right? But I know who knows how to do it. And I have a backup who, because one of my coaches was like, you better know how to write code in case something goes sideways. I go, I'm never going to spend my time learning code, because that would be a stupid expenditure of my time, but I'm going to have 3 backup people if something goes sideways. And so here's the big thing with this is the thing where you talk about working in versus on. And we've talked about all the way through, like, how much time should you be spending on your business? Early on, you're working in your business way more. And now you're starting to get to that place where you can start to work on your business more. However, in this place, I thought I was systematizing. I was just buying everybody's stuff. Have you done that? Just bought you're like, I need this thing and that thing and this thing and that thing. And you're like, no, you really didn't need any of those things.
None of it.
So the shiny object syndrome is really key. Now, when you do this correctly, and this is something you should test, is can you leave and does everything still work? Like, if you leave, do things fall apart? Have you and I remember I was going to hire a company because I had no SOPs in place on anything. Like, left to my own devices, I have like Google Docs all over the place. There's no categorization. People have to protect me from myself. But I have people who are super organized, and they do all that stuff because they love that. And again, one of my coaches, Dan Sullivan, said, you get into your unique ability, hire other people for their unique abilities. And, that is not my unique ability. So this is if you are right now at that point where you really want to scale, this is where you want to make sure you've hit. And I think, do we have success metrics here?
Yeah, we do.
You really want to make sure that you have hit these success metrics. Now, the income amplifiers, and again, I'm probably going to move more of those into optimization, because I love hiring other health coaches, adding in product lines, simple things like that. But the biggest key thing here is that you are going to be doing team, tech, and tools, and that you're going to get really good at reading all your metrics. Like, I get reports in both my companies that give me for my consumer company, what's going on with my shopping cart, and what are my Shopify stats, what are my list stats, what are my unsubs and subs, and my open rates. And then what about my podcast? And how, so I have metrics I look at every single week so that I can see if something's not quite right, if something's going sideways. The other thing that you want to have at this point that you should have created during Optimize was a really good funnel, a funnel that has great lead gen that you can get traffic to, that then takes them through a nurture sequence, then takes them through an offer, that then takes them into the post-purchase, and then brings them into becoming an advocate for you. So you want to make sure you really, really have that dialed. And the other piece is knowing your financials. And this piece, like, when you get to this place in your business, now it might happen in Optimize, but I still remember when it happened for me, realizing that I could no longer run my business off my credit card. And that if something went sideways, I was in deep, deep doo-doo. And in that case, you've got to really understand your financials, how to read a balance sheet, what a profit and loss is, and understand, the different tax advantages that you can take advantage of, like R&D credit, and what are the different write-offs that you can do. And again, I think just like, you look at tech and all that stuff, for me, this is just really not very fun. But if you don't know your numbers, you can end up upside down really quickly. So in the first part, creation, like I could do them all in my head. I was fine even in optimize, but boy, you start to get into here and start to really do things, you better be really dialed with those numbers.
Yeah. And I just want to put a shout out here. This is one of those places when you get to this, if you are someone, and I will say that I am not that person who, I don't love numbers. Math has never been my forte, and bringing somebody onto our team who is a numbers person and can help me navigate that and make decisions in a way that I feel super confident. Like when you get to this stage, that's the kind of thing that you can do. So it doesn't have to be you building epic spreadsheets and things like this. So
no. This should never. So, and again, when I really look at, the most important things you can do here, one of the big mistakes, since let's just talk about all the mistakes, open up the kimono. Early on, when I was in the optimized stage, I had one gal who'd been working with me at my gym who was kind of a jack of all trades. She was amazing. And then my son's best friend, his mother was a bookkeeper. So it was convenient. So I brought her on. That woman, like I go, wait a minute, you said it was 20,000 and it was 200,000. She goes, oh, it's a zero. I'm like, zeros matter. Like I had her working with me for 10 years. It was, I don't know what was wrong with me, but I felt like I couldn't fire her because she was my best friend's mother. So don't hire people because they're convenient or because you're getting a great deal. It will end up costing you so much in the long run. And I ended up I have an amazing fractional CFO and accounting team. They saved me so much money, and they really aren't, I don't even know if they're any more expensive than she was in the first place. But a lot of what I've done that have made big mistakes is trying to cut corners, save money, and hire someone that was less expensive. And then they make gigantic mistakes. And then I have to go hire someone expensive to go fix all the mistakes that they made. So that's when you really want to make sure that you go hire a really good, outsourced accounting team. Like they're incredible, and they can give you those reports. Then we have a financial meeting every month. I dread it. It's so not fun to sit through, but it's absolutely necessary. And I'll tell you what, Margaret, I was talking to Mary Morrissey about this. And I'm like, oh, and after, her ex-husband embezzled, she's like, I just made a decision. I was going to sit through every single one of those and really learn them. And I'm like, okay, you're one of my role models. You can do it. I can do it. So you got to know, you got to do that stuff, but you don't have to do it yourself. And that's the important thing in systematize. You will never build a business. If you are trying to do everything yourself, you do not have a business. If you do, you have a business with a really mean boss. But a business that's just you doing everything you're a consultant. That's not a business. A business is something that you can build where you can actually step out of it and it can still make money. And that you now are leveraging yourself through all of these different people, team that you can now outsource, and tech and tools. So again, start looking at, now that you are starting to think about what's my time worth an hour, start to look at what things could be taken off your plate. And the first things that should be taken off your plate are things that you don't like and you're not good at. Those go first, right?
Yep. Well, and I remember you coached me on this one. So one of the most valuable pieces of coaching, and I come back to it a lot. There's the not good at and don't like. And those are the really easy ones because you already kind of suck at them. And so you've probably tried to find someone to do it. Then there's the not like but not good at. And that's also you're not good at it. So it's pretty obvious, but it's the things that you like and you're good at, but they're not your sweet spot. They're not where your zone of genius. Those are the hardest to give up. And that's actually at a certain point where you need to it's the progression up the hill where again, those first ones are obvious and easy, but the ultimate goal is that you are solely working in your unique ability, your zone of genius, the things that only you really can do, or that you just
love to do, you do whether you got paid to do it or not, that you just, thrive doing, like, and you can get there. Like that was my ultimate goal from the very beginning, 40 years ago. And again, it should have taken me 3 years, but like there was no path to follow. So it took me 30. All right. So expansion. So this is okay. Now your foot's on the gas. You've got everything in place. You can now really start to push it. And this is where things start to get really, really fun. And this tagline, again, you're accelerating your vision, your impact, your income. However, we're talking about this, Margaret. We're thinking about starting a little prize for this in Mindshare, where we're going to give people pie when they get here. Because what we find happens here is that people forget that how they got here. And right. I know that I am where I am because of the mentors that I've had. It's me willing to invest in myself and be coachable, and then having amazing mentors and amazing groups and doing all these trainings. I am not where I am because of me. Yeah. And one of the things that I see here, and you've seen it, you can totally, you're smiling. You've seen the people. They're the people that are like, and I'm like, oh boy. And Joe Polish always says, be careful on the way up, because those are the people that are going to grab you as you start to slide back down again. Is I'll see people forget their beginnings, start to get into this, like, and it's like, ugh. So that's why we might start giving people pie, so they have a little humble pie. So just as a reminder. I was wondering
the pie tie-in. Okay, humble pie. Well, I love it.
But the reason we thought about that was, here's what we started to see. In this place, people start to get held up. They get very excited about their achievements, but they don't realize that. And honestly, if I were going to draw this here, I think I may need to redo this model a little bit, because what really looks at this point is not that. It goes like this, just like the whole path does. It's never this straight line. It's always jagged. And along those lines of scaling, like in scaling is when I launched Miracle Mindset Warrior Mom, and it was an epic fail, like epic fail. Epic. It was incredible. It was in scaling. So I went zoom, boom. In scaling is when I promoted someone in my organization to like a wrong position in my consumer brand. And he nearly bankrupted us because I let him like do all these things, like build out a huge office. I was like, why do we need an office? We're a virtual company, $10,000 a month, like crazy. So while this expansion looks awesome, it is literally can be jagged lines, but it also, so that's why and what I find with people, if they're too in their ego, they don't want to ask for help.
Yeah.
They don't want to admit they're struggling. And so they suffer in silence, and then they start to slide down, and then they just retreat and go away because they don't want anyone to find out. Whereas if they just leaned into their mentors, they leaned into their community, they would have realized that actually that slide was absolutely necessary for them to get to the next place. It's all part of the journey, that there's no straight line to success. So that's a really important thing to happen, because in expansion, a couple things can happen. You'll hit a big, pothole, and then you start to doubt yourself. You'll do that all the way along, or things aren't going as fast, so you'll just get frustrated. So it's not all butterflies and sunshine and puppy dogs, basically.
Not at all.
But some of the things here is, now you've really expanded your customer journey. You've got, your signature program. You've got upsells, downsells. You've got an affiliate program. You've got multiple lead generation sources. But important thing here, this is where we really see people, audiences, 100,000 or more. Now that's consumer. If you're doing B2B, that audience doesn't need to be anywhere near as big to make the same amount of money, more like 10,000. But the interesting thing here, you're spending more time working on the business than in the business, but your profit margin's different. When you're working just in creation, you'll have a really great profit margin. You won't be making very much, but you'll be keeping most of it. Again, because at that point, you really don't have a business, right? You're a consultant. as you're building this now, you're making a lot more money, but you're bringing home less. But ideally, what you're creating here is you're scaling to be able to have a saleable business. And I believe whether you ever intend to sell a business or not, you need to set it up that way, because if you do, having sold now multiple businesses, if you just started from the beginning, from when you get to systematize, if you start to set it up to sell, if you do ever sell it, it won't be the train wreck that it can be as you start to unpack those things, but it's going to make for a better business, because all the things they have you do when you set a business up to sell are the things you should do anyway. So that's super important. And a profit margin, depending on the type of business, of 20 to 40% is a very healthy profit margin. So that's super important. And this hopefully is a time, and my husband and I were talking about it today, because we are now co-CEOs of Mindshare, although the reality is he's really doing the CEO stuff. And I said, sweetheart, he goes, I see so many visionaries out there and they're CEOs and they're just messing it up. I go, because visionaries aren't CEOs by nature. They're just not, so that's why when a company gets to a certain place, you'll see them replace the CEO, because the skill sets of a CEO would suck the life out of a visionary. So, what you'll see here is quite often you'll have this leadership, and this is where you're really working in your unique ability, whatever it is, and replacing yourself on all the other stuff, which is super fun. Like, it's super fun, but you still have to be able to track every single thing, because you never know, you have to be able to watch the farm and make sure everything's going well. But ideally, you're really building a team where you're moving yourself out so that you're only doing whatever your queen bee activity is, but also making sure that this thing can run with or without you. Because if you do ever want to sell it, if you've based this business on being a hero and you're the only one, you don't have a business you can sell.
Such a good point.
And then and it's funny. So I did a podcast interview with Dr. Alan Christensen, and he followed this whole thing perfectly. And that's why it was fun to look back, because I didn't know, as I was coaching him, I didn't have the process. I just was going through what I'd done. I just hadn't figured it out yet. But literally, he got to the point where now he just wanted to help others, and he was going to start a foundation. And so, when you get to the point of maturity, you can decide to sell your business or not. You can decide you want to mentor other people. I think one of the best things you can do is mentor people as much as possible all along the way. It's the best way to learn. And you can decide if you ever want to work again or not. Now he wants to go back to practice.
Look at that.
It's funny. Both him and Sarah Gottfried, they're like, I'm going back to practice. I go, that's and Anna Quebeca, they all did.
Right.
But the nice thing is he moved to Minnesota, was just kind of having fun, doing his thing. And, he can decide what he wants to do. Has the options. And all along the way, like what I just described was really how to predictably build a health business within 3 years. And how to predictably build a 7-figure health business in 3 years. And that's the transformation that this can offer. If you're coachable, if you will invest in yourself, and if you will do the things that are uncomfortable at first, because as we know, number one, there's no growth inside your comfort zone, but that if you do something uncomfortable, it gets comfortable. But that's why I think people fail as they get into creation. They don't want to do the uncomfortable of having to sell the thing. And so they never get past that. They start jumping up, and then they spend all their money and they don't have any success, and they get bitter and they say it didn't work.
And there's always that moment too. I've been getting some questions about the PowerPoint. So there you go, guys. You can download that here. I notice in myself, if I don't have that feeling, there's that feeling of like, the sort of the nervous butterflies of like, oh, things are about to get bigger. Things are about to get a little, I'm now taking that next step. And, when I'm in that mode, I'm always like, ugh, but I love it. And then you spend a little, then you get there, and then all of a sudden that becomes your new norm. And now that's fine.
Right.
You don't get the butterflies from that anymore. And then maybe a few weeks or months or however long goes by, and then you're ready for that next piece. So, but that never goes away, you guys. That never goes away. I know there was a time when I firmly believed that I would get there and I would not feel that feeling.
I was like, where's there? Where's that?
There's no there.
Where is that there? One of my first mentors said, it doesn't get easier. There's just more zeros.
Yeah.
That's why the day I realized, oh, I cannot fix this with my credit card anymore. And, one of the things that Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coach teaches is that you do not want to live in that gap where you always think, oh, as soon as I get there, because I've never gotten there.
Yeah.
Ever. Like as soon as I got close to there, I moved there to the next there. And there was never getting there. And, I think if all of us just looked back and went, let's just even recap the last 3 months, 6 months, or a year and look at the things that we accomplished, we go, holy smokes, right? It's amazing. And so if you look at this and go, if all I was going to do, even if I'm already at a point where I want to scale, is just really look at creation and make sure that I've nailed everything there, nailed it. That in itself, if you just focused on that, that's 5 to 6 figure income stream.
Right there.
If you're willing to get out of your comfort zone. I don't know how to help anybody who's like, nope, I'm just going to pick the things I want to do. I'm like, all right, that won't work. Has anyone ever worked with someone like that? Because Margaret, one of my first clients, wanted to tell me what she wanted. So she came in, she goes, these are the things I'm going to do. I'm not going to do the other things. And I don't know what, I didn't know. So I was like, oh, okay. And of course she got no results and she was mad at me.
Of course it's your fault. Which it actually is, because you didn't hold her to
it was my fault.
True,
I was
right?
like going, I should have said, no, that won't work.
Yeah.
I learned after that, I go, okay, well, we can totally do that. And I'll just rewrite your program so that you gain weight slowly over time. And they go, wait, what?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
This is incredible, JJ. Thank you so much. I want to make sure I see some questions in here. I want to ask the question because this was something I polled our audience in our Facebook community before coming and chatting with you. And one of the key questions was about we're talking about investing in yourself, right? And how do people know? Because there's a million and one things they can invest in.
Mm-hmm.
Even that choice as a clinician, do I invest in more clinical training? Do I invest in the business side? How do you guide people to figure out for wherever they are, what is the right thing for them, like that right thing at the right time? How do you help people make those decisions?
So it was very interesting, because for years I was clinical, conference. And really until my mid 40s. Mm-hmm. And I could have here's the thing, we have to keep up on our clinical training. Let's be real. We have to. Yep. However, what I find is that because that's what we're used to and it's comfortable, I've never gotten scared doing clinical training. Have you?
I know with some of our students.
No, but think about you're
it's
like
not that sort of edgy.
It's fun. You're not going, oh my gosh, I'm going to be put out of my comfort zone going and learning about telomeres. It's like it's not happening, right? Yeah. So, I think it's a default where we go, and I find people saying this, well, I'll do that after I get this next certification, this next degree, this next this. What I would say is, I think that the single most important thing that you have to get highly skilled at is business, because you don't want to practice. You want to have a business. A practice really is you one-on-one trading time for money, being a commodity, and you will end up burnt out, never getting out of that. You have to learn how to have a successful business. And you have to learn it. There's no other way. I was like going, why? And it's ridiculous that they don't teach us any of this stuff, but unless you want to just go work for someone, which is totally fine, know yourself, that might be your best thing. Have worked for one person. I got fired in 3 months and that was that. So I know I'm not employable. So if you want to have your own business to build and go through, and it's funny now that Tim was working in corporate, and now he's working with me in Mindshare, and waking up at 2 a.m. and he's working. He never used to work. He used to work 2 to 3 hours a day, and now he's working like 8 to 9 hours a day. And he goes, I love it. I'm so happy. So if you've got that burning desire to both have your own business, have the freedom of that. I always have to work whenever you want. I go to work all the time, to have the freedom of that. But also to create that leverage, create something that's scalable, but to create a big impact in the world, like to really decide what's that thing, what's the hill you would die on, what's the thing you want to take out to the world and do. And my guess is for everybody listening, the last thing you need right now is more clinical training. That your clinical training can actually become a scapegoat for not doing what you need to do to get your work, to get your gift out into the world. That the thing that is going to make the bigger impact on you being able to impact the people, whether it's hundreds, thousands, millions, is for you to double down on the business side, to really learn how to market, how to sell. I was teaching a course called Overcoming Weight Loss Resistance, and this doctor came up to me and she goes, "You have to stop using that word." And I go, "What word would that be?" And she goes, "Sell." And I go, "I'm going to double down on sell, because if you don't know how to sell, you're never going to get your client to do anything. They're not going to eat the way you want them to eat. They're not, nothing. So the skills that you're going to learn to build a successful business are going to translate into everything that you do in your life." Yeah. So then the question goes, well, where should you invest? And man, I could also do a list of where not to invest too, because I definitely have done some of those. But I think again, that word success leaves clues. Where should you invest? You need to find people who are where you want to be and who've made a lot of mistakes along the way. If someone has done this once, because I see this all the time, people will have success one time and all of a sudden they're a coach, coaching on the thing they were successful. I go, you know what? You modeled someone else's thing. You had success once. You've never failed. You haven't innovated. You haven't done anything else. And now all of a sudden you're a coach. That's ridiculous, right? So find a group, find people who are where you want to be, and who have made mistakes along the way, and who will be generous and collaborative and operate in integrity, and invest there. Ask around, ask people for referrals, get testimonials, and that's where I would put my money, because that will make the biggest difference in your ability to help people to this next step, not more clinical training.
Right. Once you've done all 4 levels of RWS.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, they're not mutually exclusive. So like, what am I doing? I'm in multiple groups and I'm studying every single day, because I'm focused on this new program. So I'm like in it and looking at what clinical conferences I go to, right? So while you're going through this, wherever you are, it doesn't preclude you from, okay, now I'm going to start to learn this other stuff. And yeah, maybe you're going to be a little busy for a while. I was in grad school with 2 babies, getting up at 5. It's just the way it is, those times in life where you're kind of going, okay, I'm going to be a little busy, but it'll be so exciting because you love everything you're learning, and then you can immediately apply it.
Yeah, 100%. I think people, if you were to look at my business financials over the last 15, 16 years, the bottom line for like professional development has been one of the biggest places I have. It is the biggest, I think it's the biggest expense personally for me every year. Part of the Mindshare Mastermind, part of another mastermind, always looking for like, where do I need to grow, and what is the community of people, and who are the mentors that are going to help me get to that place. So
in 2008, I joined my first group, and when I was dead broke, and it was a huge recession. And if I had known then, I would have, but I didn't even know these things existed. No, there was trainings. I would that was the biggest thing that changed. And literally there was 1 year I took off because I thought I needed to implement and just focus. And that was the year my business went flat. Right. And so I have always been in groups, multiple groups, doing multiple trainings ever since. It is my secret to success, hands down.
I agree completely. Do you have time for 2 little quick tactical questions that I saw folks ask?
Sure.
We'll just go through them quickly. So Evie asks, when you were talking at the beginning about creation, and you're talking about right now, you're looking at like 5 to 10 warm contacts, trying things out. She's asking, in terms of figuring out people wanted to hear about, did you like canvas your friends, warm contacts? Like, how did you even get into that? Like almost the pre-creation phase of identifying that next problem you're solving.
Well, so the first thing was, and I We had Janet Atwood. I don't know if Janet Atwood, were you at the one where Janet Atwood actually was at, or the one where she had her other person? Anyway, Janet Atwood writes this thing called the passion test. If you're not sure what you want to do, if you're like, I don't know, get this book, do this thing. So for me, right now, I knew the thing that I really wanted to do next, and I'm like obsessed about it. And so I've just been kind of sharing with friends, what I'm doing. And they're like, I want that. So I'm just kind of like throwing it out there, softballing it out there. And, it's easy enough if you know the problem you solve. And let's say that it was, back with the Virgin Diet, you softball it out, and you can always say, hey, do you know anyone? I'm going to work with 5 people right now in a beta group. And so I'm looking for 5 people that have with this. Do you know anyone who would love to get this solved?
Yeah.
Simple as that. Like, I literally went and spoke at little pharmacies, little groups, just to start to think about, where is my audience for this? Where are my friends? Which friends would have other friends who would be interested in this? Because that's the easiest way to start, is just with, and again, you don't need that many people.
Totally. Second quick question is asking about when to start hiring. So, we're at those different stages, the idea of taking on the financial responsibility for someone else is a really scary idea for a lot of folks. When is that point where you would start to think about bringing on another person to your team?
So I hired someone in college because I realized that what my time was worth, and that I could pay someone, and that I could book more. So here's the thing. If you've got all the time in the world, then it's not an issue. Does anyone have all the time in the world? No. So the great thing now is you don't have to hire an employee. You can use independent contractors as virtual assistants, right? And what I would look at first is, again, what do you hate that you suck at? And especially, what do you hate that you suck at that are lower level things? Hire that first. And I still remember my agent, Celeste, when she was starting her own book agency, I go, you need to have an assistant. And she was so freaked out about that. And then she interviewed 2, and she goes, I can't decide. And I'm like, hire both of them. And all of a sudden they're both booked full. And now all of a sudden their business is growing. See, if it's just you can't grow. Like, how are you going to grow? You've only got so much time. It's finite. So we've got to continue to take things off your plate to free you up so that you can start to work more on your business. And even right now, and that's why creation is so important, is we are going to, you're packaging yourself so that you're making more in less time. And so if you're doing that, and let's say that you figure out that, let's say you're even making $300 an hour. Well, if you can work 20 hours a week at $300 an hour, you've got some time, then you can work on your business. If you've got tasks that you could pay someone $25 or $50 an hour for, it, start there. And I think finances are always like, bookkeeping is always a great one.
Oh, yeah. Holy cow. Change. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Let's talk a little bit about the summit. I have been sharing about it, but it is a phenomenal event. It's around the corner, October.
It's around the corner. Oh my gosh. I've been deep working on the health business ascension model, because we are going to go in it and go deep in it with checklists and really help people identify where they're at, what they need. And then we're bringing up different members all along the way to teach in different areas about what they've done, which is super exciting. So Thursday, I know you're doing a special group on Thursday.
I am. Thursday morning for RWPs and special guests. We're going to be getting really dialed in on goals and like strategizing on exactly how to leverage the event, and really connecting for one, which we never get to do in person, which will be wonderful.
So fun.
But like really dialing in on those business goals and just getting super strategic about how to craft that event so that you get the absolute most out of it, and also understand what each other is doing so we can connect each other to the right people and sort of make that first intros in terms of networking in those contacts.
Well, we have some wild stuff. So, the event itself, I always want to make sure, like the ticket prices, to me, the least relevant. It's your time, it's the travel, everything. So to me, I always look at it and go, how do I make this a 6-figure event for someone? How do I make sure, like, we had someone come last year and launched her entire, a practitioner to transactional practitioner is now, I'm going to have her speak at the beginning, because it was like her whole thing, put on a summit, did all this stuff. I was like, holy smokes. She actually just got chosen for brass ring, as did your hubby.
Nice.
By the way.
Did? He doesn't know that yet.
I know. Yes,
Wow.
yes. And
I will let him know.
I'm giving him Tom Arts as his mentor. So
fantastic.
Yeah, very, very, very exciting. So let me share how we walk through this, because my whole thing with this event is, and again, it came from being in the field working, and I just saw so many people who were amazing, who were struggling. Like, they had all of the knowledge, they had all the clinical skills, and yet because they lacked the marketing and business, they were struggling. They were burnt out. They weren't making it. And then I saw these people that were like lame. Can I say it? I just said it. And they had these huge businesses. And I was like, wait a minute. Because I knew how to do business and marketing. So I'm like, all right, we're going to solve this. And so, but I realized part of it was, and it's that Jim Rohn quote, that you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with, that when you get around people who have a bigger vision, yours is going to expand. Like, you can't help it. You just get a bigger vision. So that's the first thing that happens is, and I think it's the 4-minute mile. You see what's possible out there and you're like, oh, okay. Because you see people there and the stuff they're doing. I'm like, I stand up on stage and go, holy smokes. Like, we've literally launched more podcasts, docuseries, New York Times bestselling authors, summits, 6, 7, 8-figure businesses than any other group in health. It's just wild. But the cooler thing is the impact that we've made now. I wanted to figure out how to help 1 billion people. And I was like, well, I'm not doing that. I got to recruit my friends. And I think we're at about 400 million people that we have gotten health information out to. So the billion is within reach. With this. And that's a big part that we focus on. We focus on how do we add income streams? How do we take you through the health business ascension model? And how do we create this impact? How do you help you reach more people? So Thursday, and the other thing that we do, and how do we make sure you do that and have a lot of fun and feel really great while you're doing it? So we have super great food, gluten-free, dairy-free, low sugar impact, et cetera. We have dry farm wines there. So we have great lunches, amazing dinners. Thursday afternoon, we're doing some really cool workshops. Mike Koenigs is going to do one on creating content with AI. We have a book panel, a podcast panel. We have hot seats. We have Sam Horn doing her magic. So that's Thursday afternoon. Those are bonus. That's like, it actually starts Friday, but we're doing bonus stuff. And then Thursday night is our version of Shark Tank, which your hubby will be a part of. That will be super exciting. And I think, there's a meta part there where when you watch people present their business to get funding, you really kind of understand, what do you need to be thinking of? And you'll see 6 very different businesses. And then throughout the rest of the event, it's a blend of trainings taking you through this health business ascension model. We do SIG lunches, special interest group lunches on Friday, so that we can get you collaborating with people in your world. So maybe it's menopause, maybe it's autoimmune, maybe it's regenerative health. So we put different tables together so you can start to collaborate. We're doing speed networking with Amber on Thursday night. We have books, bestsellers book rows throughout the event during the break, so that you can connect with authors. If you're an author, you can bring your book if you published in the last year, so you can sign it and get pictures and people can promote it. Friday afternoon, we have 12 different specialized training sessions to pick from, everything from copywriting, lead gen, how to nail a testimonial, brand design. And then Friday night, as you know, and again, here's the actual secret. If I was going to do some business just out of love that wasn't a business, it would be party planning. I love parties. I love parties. My mom was like, you've been doing this since you were a little kid. I totally forgot it. I love costumes and parties. And have you seen my closet, Margaret? We actually built out our closet because I had so many costumes. I needed a place to put all of them. So we had to do an addition to the house for the closet. for the costumes. So we always have a costume party each year because of the brass ring, the Ring Masters, which is our version of Shark Tank. This year is all the world's your stage because there's no business like your business. And it's really about finding your next act. And so Friday night's a circus. And then Saturday, we have a really cool, we're going to have a business working lunch to really make sure that you've nailed the health business ascension model. Jeff Bland is getting the big awards Saturday night. So he's going to kick off our Future of Health Talks competition. We'll have 8 to 10 people competing for that prize. And the winner gets a Mind Body Green podcast and then a national network TV spot. And then Saturday night, we do this amazing award ceremony that's always so emotional. Like I get like it's crazy. Last year, we gave it to Dr. Joe Dispenza. It was so awesome. And then Sunday morning, we are going to dig more in. We have something fun Sunday morning, but I'm not going to share. And then we are going to dig more into the final parts of the health business essential model. And with all of these, what we call mic drops, where people are coming up and telling you exactly how they did something so you can immediately use it in your business. Because I always want people to walk out, whether they get it from specialized training sessions or the mic drops, with 3 things that they know are going to take that, do that 6 figures. You know, it's like, what are those 3 things or 7? You know, what are the 3 things? What are the strategies that I need? And because you've gone through the health business ascension model, you won't go into the bright, shiny object overwhelm state. You'll know the ones that you actually need instead of the ones you shouldn't do. And then Saturday, we are closing with Lisa Nichols, who I'm sure you've shared with the group, right?
Yeah. A little bit, not a lot yet, but a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no one better than Lisa. Lisa is the best speaker trainer on the planet. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of started in Palm Springs because we used to have the event in August in Palm Springs, as everyone would end up at the pool. So now we make it legit that everybody ends up at the pool, hangs out afternoon, evening, and collaborates and kept Connection Cabana. So that is the event. The other cool thing that I did is when you sign up for the event, we are going to do in November and December this new program that I'm really excited about called Your Next Income Stream Intensive, that helps you identify the exact next right income stream for you. So you're also going to get a ticket to that. That's a $495 virtual workshop. So that, and then we're also launching at the summit our enhanced community. So you also get into the community, which will have finally our member directory and calendar and all sorts of activities going on in the Facebook group on a regular basis. So
it is an amazing event, you guys. It really is. I've been going to it now 6 years, 7 years. Wouldn't miss it. I learn so much every year. We threw the link in, Julie threw it in, I threw it in again here, because there's a special code in there, 500 Margaret.
I was going to say, yes, give them your special code.
So you get $500 off of the ticket price, which is going to be going up, I think, in a few weeks, like 2-3 weeks.
Oh, here's the other cool thing. So, you know, basically your lunches and dinners and dry farm wines are all included. Like this is this is like putting on
well cared for.
It's you're totally taken care of. Coffee, you know, pure water, all that kind of stuff. You are dialed in with that. The hotel that we have it at, the JW Marriott, is $995 a night or something insane, except we have rooms at $299. Yeah. So, you know, it's
the Camelback Hotel for any of you who know Scottsdale. It's incredible.
Yeah, the JW Marriott Camelback, and it's the one that the Marriott stay at. So it's really super cool, great hiking, beautiful place. The gala Saturday night. I always tell people we really do wear costumes, and the gala Saturday night, which happened because I bought this really cool gown on eBay and I know where to wear it. Cause like, when do you ever get to wear anything? Right. So now you can dust off your tux or your black suit or your dress and bring it on over because you get to wear it.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. And then for anyone also, what we're going to do is after the event, I don't want to leave you hanging, because one of the things that can happen at events like this, there's so much, you meet so many people, you leave so jazzed, and we want to maintain that. We don't want to come home and get, kids and life and busy. We want to be able to really maintain that and make sure that you're really leveraging everything that you've learned, all those contacts that you've made. So one of the things I'm going to do is about a week or two after the event, we're all going to get, and any of you who come, we're going to get together on a very intimate Zoom and really, really lock in your action plan and how you're going to make use of everything that you learned, so that this isn't something that just gets you all hyped up and then you go home and do nothing differently, because that would be a failure in my mind. You need to go home and actually implement the things that you learn.
Yeah. No. So yeah, at least 10 cool new connections. And how many people have you, like, how many connections have you made through Mindshare? Something insane.
I mean, definitely in the hundreds. And I've met, in terms of just overall connections, in the hundreds, but I've also met some of my absolute closest friends on the planet. So, like my innermost circle, many of them I met at this event because they get you. Right? They really get you, and they hold that vision with you. And it's the kind of people who will challenge you and not let you play small, which is the kind of people I want to surround myself with.
Me too.
So JJ, you are amazing.
Thank you.
One of the folks on here, she saw your Instagram earlier. So, you guys, JJ is only a few days post-op, and you would never know. You are just incredible. Thank you so much for coming and giving us all of this incredible wisdom. You guys, I would bookmark this. When we send out the replay, please go back and watch this. There was like gem upon gem upon gem upon gem in what JJ has just shared in the last little bit. So JJ, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.